Richard. It's Trina. Hi. Those were great presentations at the meeting last night, the township meeting. The sculpture is beautiful and the website really looks good. So good job.
Thank you.
Just let me know when you want me to begin. Maybe give everybody another minute.
Stop video.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Alex McDonald. I'm the business administrator for the township. I'm going to do a brief introduction. I just want to welcome everybody to the first public engagement of the township's downtown area vision plan process. Appreciate everybody being here. Just a quick housekeeping item. If everybody could just mute, we are going to go through a presentation at the beginning of this this session, and then we will be put into breakout rooms so that we can have a more intimate discussion with the residents about the various areas of this idea and this plan. So again, if everybody could just mute and certainly you know, we'll be able to get through this here. This process began back in February of this year with the Township Committee approving the RFP process to find a planning firm to assist the Township Committee and our residents through the process of envisioning what we all would like to see in the downtown area. It has been a great process to get to this point and to be able to be in our first public engagement session with the incredible team from Perkins Eastman and the great work from the steering committee that has guided this process on behalf of the township. You know, it certainly has been a year that we haven't really expected, but I think one of the positive maybe that we can take from this is the opportunity to have public engagement like we are tonight. We have over 200 people registered for this event. And it's going to be a great day, having so much public participation, having the residents involved, and being able to get a sense of where everybody wants to see this process go. So, without sort of further ado, we're gonna start by introducing the steering committee to the residents that have worked again on behalf of the township to guide this process with the consultants for Perkins Eastman and their sub-consultants. And with that, I'm going to start with Deputy Mayor Prupus, if she'd like to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I am your Deputy Mayor, Tara Prupus. Just want to give you a brief introduction about myself. I opened my business in downtown Millburn in 2013. I moved to Millburn in 2016. I have a daughter in the high school, and she's a senior this year. And I got onto started my term on the township committee in 2019 last year, and I very much wanted to bring this to the community and have us do a vision plan coming out of the master plan reexamination. So I'm really excited about tonight. I just want to thank you all for showing up and for participating. We have Committeeman Wasserman. Thank you so much for all your work in helping me bring this to light tonight. And I'm just been so impressed with the whole process. Perkins Eastman is amazing. Our steering committee is great. As you can see, we really got a great representation of all the committees and the boards in the town. And I'm just thrilled to be here. So thank you. And thank you, Alex, for all your hard work on this as well.
Alex, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Tara. Committeeman Wasserman is also on the steering committee. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Committeeman Wasserman.
Oh, do you hear me now?
Yep.
I think I was muted. Anyway, Alex, thank you so much, and Tara, thank you so much. It's really been an honor to be participating in this, and we have such a wonderful steering committee. All of our members are so dedicated to the township, and we really owe you a debt of gratitude for doing this. I've lived in town, almost 30 years. I have 4 kids I raised with my wife, with my lovely wife, Eve. And so we've been here a long time, and we love the township. We love the town. And I've been on the township committee for a year. This has been my first term. And we've been really working hard for the community, and I am just so excited about this process, about our visioning plan, and I also want to thank the Perkins Eastman people. They're such professionals, and I'm just excited to be here with you all.
Thanks, Committeeman. Priya Patel.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Priya, and I have been a resident of Millburn since 2015. I currently chair the Environmental Commission, and I have previously chaired the PTOC Green Schools team. I'm really excited to be part of this process, and it's amazing to see so many people that have registered for this and are excited to share their input and thoughts. So I just look forward to a night of listening and learning and hearing from all of you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Priya. Alex Saltzman.
All right. Thank you again, Alex, and for all the hard work and putting this together. I'm on the Board of Education. I'm the president, and my role here is to represent the school district insofar as providing input and also potentially access to students. They are very important in terms of what they do during the day after school. We have middle school that lets out. We have high school seniors that use the downtown. So their input is important. So I'm here to represent the interests of the Board of Ed. I've been in town since 2015, and I have 2 kids in the school district.
Great. Thank you, Alex. Gaston Halper.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Gaston Halpert. I've been here in Millburn with my family since 2011. I have 2 children in the Wyoming school at the moment, and so I intend to be here for a lot longer. I serve on the PTOC Safety Committee as co-chair. I also serve on the PTOC Green team as co-chair. I'm also the liaison to the Pedestrian Safety Advisory Board for the PTOC Safety Committee, and I also serve on the planning board in town. I'm really excited to be on this board or this steering committee. When we moved here, we really thought Millburn was a great location. It's got a lot of stuff around it. We've got great neighbors. We had a great school system. One of the drawbacks maybe was a little bit of sprucing up of the downtown, and now we're doing it. I'm very excited for this opportunity. And from what I've seen so far with our consultant, everything looks great, and I'm very excited that everybody gets to contribute tonight. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Gaston. Amy Lawrence.
Hi, folks. Good evening. So I'm really happy to have the opportunity to participate as part of this steering committee with the other committee members, the township members, Perkins Eastman. It's been a great experience so far, really great committee. And my family moved here 5 years ago from Livingston. And, part of the reason we moved here, we live in the Knollwood section. Part of the reason we moved here was to be able to walk to, the train to Manhattan, to the downtown, to, open green space. And that's been, really great for us. We have loved living here and being part of this community for the past 5 years. And, and I'm happy to serve to this community. And prior to this, I served for 2 years on the DPW Facilities Ad Hoc Committee, which was the committee looking at alternative locations for DPW and what is lovingly called the dump site. So I have a certain amount of experience with that. And a little bit of new experience, I guess. I have a 3rd grader, 6th grader. So my 6th grader now walks into town. So that's a whole new town experience for me. And yeah, we're just, we're happy to be here. I'm really happy to be serving. And I think this project is really important for our town to consider all of the various aspects and to help, make the town, the downtown even better.
Great, thanks, Amy. And the final member of the steering committee, Beth Zoll.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. I'm Beth, and I currently serve on the planning board and have since 2017. Moved to town with, at the time, my 2 kids in 2013, and we now have a 3rd. And I've also had the privilege of serving on the Environmental Commission, and so have been very engaged in the master planning effort that Tara
All right. So sorry, Beth. You're freezing up a little bit, but obviously Beth has been a dedicated, public. There we go.
To work with you tonight and the team in the recommendations. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Beth. I know Beth was cutting in and out a little bit there, but Beth's been serving the township in various capacities and throughout the years, and we appreciate all that. So I think without further ado, certainly want to say a big thank you to all of our residents for participating in this process. This that's one of the most important parts of this, and going through something like that, and the amount of response and participation that we have tonight, I think will only make for an incredible project and incredible plan, and lots of input. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Perkins Eastman and their team, and let them start the presentation. Thanks, everybody.
Great. Well, I'm going to introduce our team. We have a team of, it's very interdisciplinary. We're trying to address many issues and bring it together in one kind of single plan, integrated plan. My name is Eric Fang. I'm the team lead. I'm a principal at Perkins Eastman. And, we're all excited to be here as well, particularly just to see the turnout at a meeting, in the evening, middle of the week. Everyone's got busy schedules and probably been on Zoom for 9 hours today. It just shows the enthusiasm, the passion people have for the town, which is great to see. So that's the biggest ingredient. Well, I think that the downtown has everything really, and that extra ingredient of the passion amongst the community is kind of, I think, what's really propelling this whole thing forward. So anyway, Susan.
I'm Susan Favati from BFJ Planning. We are sub-consultants and also affiliates of Perkins Eastman. We share office space. So we've worked with Eric and others for many years. And we're heading up the public engagement aspect of this project, as well as the land use and zoning elements. Noah?
Hi, my name is Noah Levine, also at BFJ Planning. I want to kind of move on, but excited about this project and excited about the public outreach and listening to you all. Okay, thanks. Sylvia?
My name is Silvia Del Fava, and I'm with BFJ Planning. So we are trying to make this public engagement as better as possible, and I'm excited for the first one tonight. And Larissa?
Hi, Larissa Ortiz, Managing Director of Street Census Public Nonprofit Group, and we'll be focusing on retail strategy. Someone?
Hi, this is Sohan Yun. I'm working with Eric Fang in Perkins Eastman, and I'm the designer of this project. And I live in North New Jersey, and I think I like this talk too. Frank?
Hello, my name is Frank Zimmerman. I work at Perkins Eastman with Eric and Song Wong, and I'm an associate there, and I look forward to hearing your input this evening.
Okay, so I'm going to start with just reiterating and kind of summarizing the goals of the project, and these are the goals from the township in the process that it got started. So I just wanted to go over these because I think these are the touch points that we always need to come back to and be mindful of. So the first was to encourage appropriate land uses that promote the character of the township as a small suburb of the highest quality. The second was to promote, improve, and support efficient streets and sidewalks and safe connections to transit for pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists. Third was to recognize and encourage township organizations and activities that strengthen businesses and social networks. Fourth was to maintain and enhance economic vitality of the downtown and other business districts. The fifth was to recognize and encourage the preservation of areas, structures, and sites of historic interest. We know that that's one of the great qualities of the downtown is that it has history and lots of diversity and a lot of character, which is really only possible over, built up over years and years of the community evolving. And the last one is to develop and implement strategies to address townwide sustainability and resiliency. And we know that there are all sorts of issues with regard to both, coming from all different directions. You have a river that runs right through the town. We'll touch on those a little bit more. So this was a very comprehensive list that the committee put together, and that's our charge. That's our point of departure. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the township's role and kind of the big picture scope of what we're trying to achieve here. So there are really four big areas that I think are the main pillars of this effort right here. The first is the biggest one is the downtown vision. So that's something that the township is playing a leadership role. It's a role that only the township can play, really, which is to convene a conversation, a community conversation about the future of the downtown. That's something that no one else can do, and many towns and communities don't do. So I think the leadership of the township deserves a lot of recognition for taking that leadership role, not letting developers or anyone else or folks from outside kind of take that lead role. So the convening the conversation about the future, I think, is the biggest thing they can do. It's the first thing. Then the other parts of what we're doing, Larissa is leading marketing and branding effort, which is to understand what is the identity of the downtown. And this touches on business aspects, particularly with kind of strengthening and reinforcing the retail core. What are the opportunities? And this is all based on data. What are the types of organizations and structures that are going to be needed to carry forth the vision? Second thing is the physical environment, and I think that this is really what we're leading at Perkins Eastman, which is the public realm. And by public realm, I mean the roads, the streets, plazas, parks. Then there are kind of mechanical aspects, parking and open traffic, and then infrastructure. So all those things need to come together. Some things you'll see, some things you won't see. And then lastly, trying to understand and guide development in an appropriate way. I think that get back to that first goal in the project goals, which is appropriate land uses. To make sure that things that may happen in the future are done in a way that really strengthen and improve what we we have already and make them better. And then the last part of this is the regulatory framework. So make sure that we have the rules and regulations that will allow all this to happen, not get in the way of anything, and really be complementary to the overall plan and vision. Okay, so you know, we are working over approximately a little bit less than a half a year. We started a month ago, but we really got to know the downtown over the course of the summer. Susan lives next door. I had the pleasure of you know, getting to know the downtown over the summer. And, it's really, you know, lovely place. Even in these crazy times, you can tell. And I think it's even better to see all the folks outside and enjoying, you know, the public realm. So we organized our, you know, this process really into 3 simple steps. There's 4 here, but the actual getting to the plan is really very simple kind of organization. We start with an analysis, which we're in the middle of right now. And the analysis is really looking at physical aspects. So we're out there, we're sketching, we're taking notes, we come back again and again to kind of pick up aspects of what we see and what's important. Special views, for instance, the scale, the character. The second thing is looking at data, right? And again, Larissa's kind of leading the charge on that, but we're looking at, you know, facts and figures, trends, program numbers, projections, so forth, based on demographics and other hard numbers. We are also looking at, as we mentioned before, what do you have in place in terms of the, you know, the regulatory framework, the rules right now that are impacting how the town looks and how it functions right now. And then the last thing and most important is, this is what, you know, what we're doing right now, which is, you know, you can't do everything on the desktop. You can't do everything just from data. We need to, I guess, really say as ground truth, all of that information and understand what it really means to the people in the community. And that's probably the most important of all, but it has to be kind of layered with, you know, all of the rest of it, okay? And then, you know, throughout the rest of the process, we're going to be kind of toggling back and forth between all of those different 4 parallel layers. The second step will happen after the conclusion of step 1. So conclusion of step 1 of the analysis, we'll be arriving at a set of planning principles. And by that, I mean, you know, the organizational principles, the street network, overall program, the scope, and by scope, I mean, what are we really tackling? I think oftentimes the hardest part and the most challenging part of these planning projects is to understand what the problems are that we want to solve. We're all, Frank, Sunghong, and myself, we're all architects, and we can draw, we sit down and we'll draw you up a new town, but that's not necessarily what the point is here, right? We want to understand what it is that has to be kind of addressed. Once we get to a set of options, we'll be kind of discussing that with the committee, and then we'll come back to you all to try to get your feedback, select the preferred option. And the preferred option might not be like, you know, door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. It might be a combination of all, you know, the best of all of them. We don't know. So we'll come back to you at that point. That'll be in the new year after the holidays. And then we'll develop that plan. We'll refine it. We'll start to do some more detailed drawings, more illustrative drawings in 3 dimensions, so you can get an idea of what our recommendations look and feel like. And then the last phase is that we'll put that together in a report. The report, it's a report, but I think the big thing to emphasize is that we're not looking at that as the end. That's really a spring point. So we are only involved because in talking with the committee, we really got the understanding and the feeling that the town wasn't interested in just doing a plan just for doing a plan, right? And neither are we. We want to do a plan to make things happen and improve them. And so the report will include recommendations on how to implement, how to carry things forward, how to advance it. So this is a long-term plan. And so some of the things might take, years. Some of them can, we'll try to layer those together with some shorter term recommendations. So, things are happening on different time frames. But, one thing to recognize is we don't want to wait years for something to happen. On the other hand, we know that we're not going to be able to snap our fingers and, produce a report and everything's going to change. So, we're working on multiple time frames as well. And that's something to keep in mind as we advance these discussions and the breakouts. Okay.
So I'm going to speak for a few moments very briefly about how you can remain involved after tonight. And I'm just going to echo some of what others have said. And just thank you so much for being here. I think we're at over 125 members of the public, which is fantastic to take here Thursday night and spend time with us. So we're really excited to hear what you have to say and what your thoughts and concerns might be. But tonight is not the last chance. And if you have friends in town who were not able to make it tonight, it's not the last chance for them either. You should check out the website. I know all of you were on there, I assume, to register for this event, but it has a lot of great information. And most importantly, it has a link to the survey. Some of you may have already participated in the interactive survey, but it's really a great opportunity for us to both, get a sense of who all you are and what are your greatest concerns, but then also after you've completed a short, 5-10 minute survey, it really gives the opportunity to post open-ended thoughts and ideas. And this is just a screenshot of what's up there right now in terms of the idea wall, which is a really nice way for you to kind of go beyond tonight or go beyond just a survey and, dig deep into what you'd like to see in the downtown, what you love, what you don't love so much. And also you can see what your neighbors are saying. So it's a really nice ongoing way to participate. And we urge you, if you have not checked it out, please do so and tell your friends about it as well. So I'm going to pass it back to Eric to give you a sense of what we've looked at so far. Or I will continue. Gives you, can you hear us, Eric?
Yeah.
This gives you a view of our study area, and I'll let Eric describe that.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I was just muted myself last. So the first thing is to talk about the study area, and that's really just a way of saying, what are we focusing on? And so we're defining, a downtown focus as really extending from Douglas over to the far corner of Essex, and then down from Taylor Park all the way up to the Playhouse, that kind of diamond shape. It doesn't mean that we're not going to look farther afield, because everything, we know influences the downtown, but that's really what our focus is. What we start with is, the public realm. That's the thing that the township has the most direct control over, right? It's not going to be, the developers come in, property owners, they could do their own thing. Again, the township is kind of trying to point in a direction, make sure that the right rules are in place, and then make sure that the setting, the circulation, streets, and so forth are the best they can be to attract the best, people to invest, to build communities, to build businesses, and so forth here. So this is a very colorful diagram, but if you notice, we're not really. This is a drawing that's kind of turned inside out, and we're trying to really look at the spaces in between the buildings. We think that's the most important to a town, right? So the streets are the things that, and the public infrastructure is the thing that lasts for years and years and years. Buildings come and go, they change ownership, they change uses, but the public realm is what stays. And so we've tried to understand different parts of the downtown. The core area, if you go to the next slide, is really that area between Town Hall, really Dunkin' Donuts and Lackawanna on Millburn, and then maybe Essex to where the entrance to Taylor Park is on Main Street. That's the real core, downtown core, we're calling it. Everything else is part of the downtown, but you know, that's the most, where the most intense retail uses and activities. There's, you know, activities on both sides, active sidewalks and so forth, and a lot of history. If we go to, okay. Yeah, let's keep going to the next slide. You know, and then if you look kind of outside that core, the character changes, right? The intensity of the experience changes. So if you go west towards, you know, Spring Street, Douglas Street, there's a lot of surface parking lots. Things kind of feel more open, less defined. Maybe the walking experience is less pleasant because there's not as much interest, right? And you don't feel like you have the sense of intimacy that you do in the downtown core. Keep going. If you go to the other side, you know, there are you know, many great kind of opportunities along the way. You've got, you know, this is a rarity, right? In a small downtown, a wonderful park that enters right onto the main drag, right onto Millburn, right? But then if you keep going, you'll see that in the next slide to the east, things kind of, the scale kind of blows up a little bit. You don't get that sense of, you know, of a human scale anymore. The cars are going faster. There are more lanes, and it doesn't feel quite as comfortable if you're a pedestrian walking around, crossing the street. You know, the cars are going by much faster. Okay, let's keep going on our tour. And then, you know, by the time you get past Essex, it turns into a, you know, almost a different experience altogether, right? You know, it's very much dominated by cars. The scale is kind of wide open, and you know, it's more strips instead of kind of street-oriented retail. So then the other kind of there's the two, you know, main corridors, if you will, right? The other one is Essex, and Essex has always been. And I'm going to throw out my impressions, and when we break out, we're really interested in hearing your impressions because you know the downtown best. But you know, the first impression that you get is something very different. Essex Street is, if we go back, you know, when you enter off of Millburn, you get kind of channeled into Essex, and it's wide open. There are multiple lanes. It's all one direction. It feels more like a car dominated and less for pedestrians, less comfortable to walk around. The buildings, you know, some of them are lifted up on stilts, you know, parking garage, not necessarily that same kind of nice, comfortable walking experience. Let's go to the next one. You know, of course, there are great moments on Essex Street. The next slide, you see the, you know, the plaza at the corner of Old Short Hills in Essex. And, you know, so there's been great things to build on. You know, the township has really got first-class streetscape standards, which can be built on, absolutely. But so there's a lot of quality, you know, thinking and materials that are there. Let's keep going. And then, you know, finally, when you get to the other side of Main Street on Essex, you know, things are wide open. You know, there's parking lots on one side. It's all one way. Cars park, you know, wherever. And you don't get, this is not a friendly place to walk around or to stay in, for that matter, okay? So that's our, you know, our kind of brief tour, and just, again, those are our first impressions. We want to hear yours because that's what we're here for tonight, okay?
So I'm gonna kind of jump in. We're just going to do a quick poll. I know there's been a lot of information so far. The point of this meeting is really to listen from you, the public. So one of our first slides, we kind of skipped past it, was just an agenda where we talked about the schedule. And basically, we're going to do an informal poll, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about the retail analysis and then some of our initial takeaways. And then after that, we'll break into small group discussions, and then we'll reconvene to hear what everyone has said. So if you could just bear with us for a little bit. But just to get the conversation started, we have a quick poll just to, get a sense of, just some preliminary ideas. So the first question we have is, how are we doing so far? Hopefully you can see this all on your respective screens. This is, we're trying to take advantage of Zoom technologies. So we started off doing great, and now it's starting to even off. I'll give it a couple more seconds. Hopefully people are getting familiar with this. All right, I'm just gonna, this is just, by the way, just an informal poll. This is not scientific. This is not gonna go in the study. We just want to get a sense of.
And it's an anonymous poll?
This is all anonymous. Okay, so I'm gonna end the polling and share the results. So far, about half of the people think that they're very interested, and 45% are just hanging on by a thread. So we'll do our best to kind of move it along and get back to hearing from you. Hopefully we can keep it interesting. The next poll, hold on a sec, if I can get to it. All right, stop share results. All right. So the questions here are about how often do you visit downtown? And then also, if you spend more time now than you did pre-COVID. We're just interested to know, how your kind of behavior has changed if you're spending more time there. So about, give everyone 10 seconds or so. Most of the people have responded. Okay, so I'm going to end the polling, share the results. Okay, so it looks like just over half the people on the meeting visit at least several times a week, which is good. People are visiting the downtown. 21% visit once a week, and then about 26% go either a couple of times a month or rarely. And then it looks like a quarter of people on this meeting spend more time downtown now than they did pre-COVID, and 43 spend about the same, or 43, excuse me, don't spend more time downtown, and 33 spend about the same. And then one last poll, and this is just to get a sense of your priorities. So on this poll, you can select, up to 3 options for the first question. We just want to know generally what your priorities are for downtown Millburn. And these are broad categories. We just want to get a sense of just broad themes that are most important. So there's improving walkability, there's improving the streetscape, which includes benches, lighting, signage, as well as storefronts and buildings. Increasing parking options, economic development and business retention, enhancing and increasing parks and open space, improving safety for pedestrians and cars, expanding housing options, more culture and entertainment, improve infrastructure and sustainability. So that would be clean energy, stormwater management, and other infrastructure type improvements. And then the second question is, how ambitious should our plans for the downtown be? So I just want to get a sense of how conservative or the community, how much do you want us to push the envelope? Do you want us to come up with big, bold plans? Just, keep what works and add to that, or just leave everything the way it is? Okay, most people have responded, but I'll give you, maybe 10 seconds. And again, we're going to have a little bit more time later. We'll have a lot more time rather to hear from people when we break into the small group discussions. Okay, so I'm going to present the results. Okay, so if you can see the results here, it looks like the top result was economic development, the top priority. followed by more culture and entertainment. Improved streetscape was just behind that, and then improved walkability. So this is helpful for us just to understand these priorities as we move forward. I think all of these are important, or maybe important, but we just want to understand where we might want to focus our efforts when we look to develop our options. So with that, I'm going to stop this and move and transition to Larissa Ortiz, who's going to talk about some of her initial retail findings.
Hi, so we conducted a retail market analysis for the downtown, and we understand we're doing this in a context that has changed significantly. And in some ways there are opportunities, and in other ways there are challenges. The pandemic has affected many businesses, retail businesses, as you know. But you know, when we think about the long-term implications, there are things that are happening right now, and that may or may not have long-term implications. But when we apply what we've learned to Millburn, I think one thing in particular is the opportunity to consider flexible work from home policies that may very well favor communities like Millburn, whose workforce is often more flexible in terms of being able to work remotely. And we know that we've seen quite a drop off in the number of commuters who go into Manhattan, for instance, and those folks are sticking around and have more resources to spend. So our analysis takes that into account. And the second is, you know, the pandemic has really accelerated the growth of online shopping. And so what that's done is it's forcing brick and mortar stores to adapt or struggle or fail, certainly, but you know, it's also slowing the growth of retail. And in environments like New Jersey, where you have a lot of retail, you know, it's something to take into account. And third, the hospitality and entertainment industries in particular are struggling. They are closed. There's no income coming in to, you know, your theater or the playhouse. And these are real threats to your downtown because, as you'll see in a moment, these are the kinds of activities and destination drivers that are creating the supply and supporting the supply, particularly of food and beverage that you have in downtown. So next slide. So when we think about retail, we're really focused on strengthening the core of your retail environment, which is, you know, Maine and Millburn. And when we looked at the mix, you have a real heavy concentration in food and beverage, about 33%, which we do see in downtowns like this. That's not, you know, outside of the norm. And the balance is in neighborhood goods and services, and what we call GAFO, general apparel, furniture, and sort of other, and a lot of office space too. So we'll go to the next slide. And you can see that our focus area. One of the things we have to keep in mind is that you are surrounded by competition, not just shopping centers and malls, but other downtowns that are vying for your customer base. So within 5 miles, you have 3.4 million square feet of retail. Retail demand is not infinite. And we have to be mindful of that, because the last thing we want to do is encourage you to grow you know, your supply of retail space and end up with vacancies. That's not in your interest. What we want to do is create a very strong core that supports existing businesses. Next slide. So what we found, and we for the purposes of this discussion, we looked at 3 main categories of retail: neighborhood goods and services, food and alcohol away from home, and general apparel, furniture, and others. And the big takeaway here is that generally we're seeing some degree of parity between supply and demand. So I'll show you how you read this. So if we look at the category of neighborhood goods and services, you know, right now you've got about 51,000 square feet, almost 52,000 square feet of offerings in that category. And the potential to support about 10,000 square feet more. So you're undersupplied in that category. In food and alcohol away from home, you've got 86,000 square feet in your downtown. which is about 50,000 square feet more than your residents could support on their own. That's sort of what we might call an oversupply, and that's not a pejorative in this sense. It's a reflection of really the demand that's being driven by the paper mill and movie theater patrons. So it's really critical that we maintain those destination drivers and potentially grow them. And then in general apparel, food, and others, we're seeing, a little oversupply, about 9,000 square feet, which we call parity. These numbers are sort of the magnitude of potential demand. And when we get to the sum of all of this, you have about 176,000 square feet, 54,000 square feet oversupply when we combine it all, and a vacancy rate, which at this time is about 26,000 square feet of vacancy in your downtown. So, I think the big takeaway is that there is some opportunity, particularly in neighborhood goods and services, and we need to focus on the paper mill and the movie theater to maintain and support your particularly your food and beverage businesses. Next slide. You are punching above your weight. I think that's really a key takeaway. Let's try to maintain your destination drivers. You have some opportunity for a certain set of goods, and our recommendations will focus on how we support neighborhood goods and services. We do think more downtown residents, that's more demand, and that will strengthen the demand for neighborhood goods and services over time. And at this point, what we call vacancies are being expressed by non-retail tenants such as offices. So we want to be mindful about how we handle non-retail tenants and how we encourage a concentration of retail offerings that creates a great business environment for retailers. And how these translate to physical recommendations is a recognition that if you are looking to grow demand or support neighborhood goods and services, those kinds of uses need an environment that's really convenient, that rewards people who come regularly. That's a great place for your residents to really feel like it's their town and their community, for them to feel comfortable and safe. That means parking, walking, and biking. All of it is convenient and easy to access. Understandable circulation patterns. You're not trying to figure out where to park. You know where to park. You know how to get into and out of downtown. And then it's a comfortable environment, safe. It has ambiance. That is, we heard from folks that they want to feel like it's a town environment and a quaint town environment. And last, really, you can't afford to leave any dollar on the table. Every single person who goes to the paper mill, who goes to the theater, who goes to South Mountain Reservation, we want to give them a reason to connect that visit to a visit downtown. And that's really what this plan is about. Next slide. And so some of those strategies include addressing and improving the things that drive people here. Healthcare and wellness uses, potentially more residential uses downtown. Offices, as we said, the work from home might create opportunities for people to have micro office spaces in downtown, and fitness and health clubs. And our research also showed there's a lot more spending in fitness and health among your residents than the average resident by almost 3 times. So we see those as opportunities. Next slide. Eric? And so I think Eric is going to take on this slide.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to reduce the background noise. So anyway, the first thing that really formed an impression on us was all of the assets, the great things that downtown has going for it. And I think if you look throughout the state, you won't see this collection of different assets in one downtown of this size. I mean, you have a major regional theater, right? That's really a destination for the entire state, and then even across the border to the city. You have this incredible natural, South Mountain Reservation, this incredible natural resource with wonderful views. You have a train station. You have a river that runs through your town, which may not be something that most people think of, but could be something that's an incredible opportunity as well. And you have this beautiful park that's spills right out onto the main drag. And on top of that, you have really fantastic historic buildings, a lot of diversity of the stock and so forth. And so everything is there. I think the question is, are things connecting quite, the way that they could to make the most of them? As Larissa pointed out, is we really want to try to reinforce the downtown business environment by taking advantage of a lot of these destinations. And so really it's a question of, almost literally connecting the dots, right? So I'm just gonna go through some of these right now together. So if we go to the next slide, we could talk a little bit about, can we advance that? Yeah. So you have South Mountain Reservation. I took my family there. We went hiking, over the holiday weekend, and there were probably over the main parking lot was, there was a queue to get in. People were almost getting into fights over the parking spots. The library was overflowed, the parking lot. The train station, people were parking there. There's probably over 150 cars parked there. And I would love to hear, Noah, maybe this could be our next poll. How many of that number do we think went under the tracks and into the downtown to get a coffee or get lunch or something, brunch or something like that, right? We could capture just, a fraction of those. The other thing that really points out is, I think that Larissa mentioned some of the challenges and they're tough, right? When we think about this current period with quarantine and the impact on the small businesses, it can be quite discouraging. But we also, part of it, this is a possible opportunity to see some silver linings and some opportunities, and maybe slight changes in the way people behave and perceive downtown. So one thing which is terrific is how people are, taking more advantage of the outdoors. People have kind of rediscovered the public spaces. Main Street being shut down with the tents. I was there one day, and there was music, and people were enjoying, cocktails and so forth. It was lovely. So, that rediscovery, and I think that's something that's happened in many towns, is something that might be a more longer lasting change that could be a longer term advantage that we could take and run with. The next slide, the next slide is shows Taylor Park, and this is one of the it's a jewel, right? And if you go in, you'll right beyond this photo, you'll see that lovely rose garden. It's just such an intimate environment. However, it's almost, Sung-Hwang was saying, it's almost like trying to hide that, right? So people don't really know that it's there. There's a screen of trees. There's nothing that really says Taylor Park. And it's certainly nothing that kind of announces that there's this lovely environment. And if you look at the two buildings on either side, they've got blank walls. So, is that something that we want more people to know about? Is that something that we want more people to visit? Once they visit, they'll patronize the restaurants and so forth and so on. And then if you look at the next slide, if you put those two things together, again, this theme of connecting the dots, you look at the entrance to South Mountain Reservation and the entrance to Taylor Park, they're only 870 feet. We measured that, right? That's 870 feet is like a 3-minute walk. But if you're at the South Mountain Reservation, you don't feel like, you don't even know the downtown is there. And you don't feel like this other lovely park that's, like a stone's throw away. So is there a way to, makes me think of, is there a way to connect those, right? If you're biking and, or you're taking a hike, you're taking a jog, why not have a continuous trail? You can go all the way from Livingston all the way down to south of Millburn. It's wonderful. More themes, right? More assets. you have the Paper Mill Playhouse. And, you know, they have, you know, they're open 2/3 performances, 250 performances a year. They bring over 200,000 visitors to the downtown. I think we have to go to the next slide now. Right, and as Larissa pointed out, they're one of the reasons why I like that phrase, you know, punching above your weight in terms of the actual numbers and demographics. But then you have these great regional, you know, draws like the Playhouse. But then, you know, again, now you look at the map and you're walking downtown, you don't even know it's there. And we can see that on the next slide. Right, and you know, by distance, it's on. This is a 4-minute walk. It's about a quarter mile. But you know, the walk from the main drag in Main Street to the Paper Mill Playhouse, you have to go underneath the tracks. You have to go by all these parking lots. You know, if you're coming back from a performance at night, it's not necessarily the most secure feeling. You know, so how can we bring the Paper Mill, you know, into the main kind of, you know, part of the downtown and create a little bit of buzz, and vice versa. How can we capture more of those patrons so they don't say, oh, you know, we can go to Summit and have dinner there and then go to Pickle. We want them to be in downtown and stay in downtown, and go out for drinks downtown and so forth. You know, one of the things that we also notice is the river, right? So you look at the slide on the right and the slide on the left, actually, the picture on the right and left. You say, well, okay, this isn't something that we feel like is exactly an asset, but you know, many places it's something that could be an asset. Well, let's go to the next slide. So this sounds like a far reach, right? But I think a few weeks ago, the engineering report on flood control came out, and I believe they presented to the township committee on some flood control recommendations. And this isn't by way of saying really anything except for the fact that a lot of times something that originates in solving an infrastructure problem, a flood control measure, can turn into something that's much greater. San Antonio Riverwalk, if any of you have been to San Antonio, which it's the best place to be in the downtown, that started off as a flood control project. And so when you're building, you know, bricks and mortar, and you talk to the Army Corps and so forth, you kind of have to imagine, well, what else could you do with that? So you're addressing flooding, very, very important. It's life safety, it's, you know, property values and so forth. But can that be done that you could actually come out with something better after addressing? So then you say, well, San Antonio is a big city. Well, there are other places that have water on the scale of what you have, and they've termed it, and this is in Colmar. This is one of my favorite places. I'm sorry, I have to sneak this in. But, and you know, they've had the advantage of working on their public realm and their infrastructure and flood control over hundreds of years. But you can see the scale of this is very similar to what you have. And so, you know, just, you know, what types of ideas can we draw from this? What types of possibilities?
Okay, so thanks, Eric. I'm going to just kind of briefly talk about the next activity, which is we're going to stop talking and listen to you all. I think that's what we're here to do, really, is to listen. And since we have this tremendous turnout, I think that there's over about 140 people that are in the meeting right now. It's a little bit too difficult to just have a free-for-all and have everyone speak all at once. And we found the best way to do it is to have smaller group discussions. That way everyone has an opportunity to talk with their neighbors. And we've actually pre-sorted everyone into 6 groups. Each group will be moderated by someone from our team. There'll also be someone from the committee there. And the idea is just to talk about, first to talk about what you like about downtown. You know, what are the assets that you feel are the greatest assets for downtown? And do you like the idea of downtown becoming a more vibrant neighborhood? And then after that, we'd like to kind of talk about some of the more specific ideas that you might have. For example, for parks and open space, do you think the downtown needs more open space? How can existing spaces be better utilized? Do you like the idea of the Riverwalk? Is it something, creating kind of an asset and turning that into something that's a public amenity? With regard to the sidewalk and streetscapes, what types of improvements would you like to see? What do you think about outdoor dining and the closure of a portion of Main Street, which was recently done? Are there any barriers that you perceive to while walking downtown, and how can we improve safety? With regard to traffic and parking, we want to understand where there are parking issues. We understand that that is an issue. Some people have said that there's ample parking, and others have said that that parking is an issue. We want to know where. And are there areas that don't feel safe? And whether, when we're thinking of prioritizing pedestrians versus vehicular access, are there trade-offs there? And do you think it's worth maybe improving the pedestrian realm if it might result in slightly more infringing on the right-of-way for cars? And lastly, for arts, culture, and events, what are the most popular activities that are occurring today? And what events are missing from the downtown arts and culture scene? So without further ado, what we're going to do is we're going to break out into these groups. Everyone should be receiving a prompt shortly to join the smaller group, and you'll be kind of pushed into a smaller group. It's 8 o'clock, and so we'll give it about 25 minutes or so to discuss these ideas. And then what we're going to do is reconvene, and someone from each group will present back to the wider group what was said. So everyone is, feels that they've heard what was said. And then again, I just wanted to mention that, once we come back, we'll discuss these ideas, but there are more opportunities to stay involved. There's a public survey, which Susan mentioned earlier, which is available on the website. That's live right now. It'll be live for a couple weeks. We will be doing another public survey in January to test some of the initial concepts that we developed. We'll be doing a public workshop also in February to present those kind of revised ideas. But you should continue to check the project website. The township will also be sending out press releases, and they'll be reaching out through various social networks. But if you have any additional comments after this meeting, feel free to send comments to let us know at millburntwp.org. So Christine, can you shoot us into the meetings?
All right.
Beam us up.
Right now.
Hello, anybody?
Well, it looks like we got pulled back.
Okay.
Buddy. I think in mid-sentence perhaps, but.
Susan, do you want to moderate this?
Sure, sure. You back in? Okay. Well, I think I will get started. Let me go back to my notes. Some things that that my group talked about. You know, we started out talking about things that people love about Millburn. You know, what are the assets? And I think, you know, people spoke about the history and, you know, the desire to preserve that. There's some iconic buildings that people really have a real attachment to, even if some of them may be vacant at the moment, like the Fudders building. I think people were interested in more public art. There's a sense that the township's been doing more of that lately, and that's a positive thing that people should be more aware of. I think restaurants were a big driver for folks. There was mentioned that, you know, the downtown is really the social center of Millburn, so that even if you're not necessarily coming down to do as much of your shopping, it's still a place that you want to be, you know, part of the social fabric. I think in terms of things that people would like to see change, I think there was just a desire to be more walkable. That being said, there's still some lingering feeling that the Complete Streets project has made things a little bit more challenging for business owners. It's harder for their customers to get to and from. There's a feeling that parking could be made more convenient, more accessible. Parking garage needs to be more connected to the core downtown, maybe more easy to find and to know about. There's a feeling that other downtowns and the mall perhaps have more options. So either you can't necessarily get what you want in Millburn, or you may only have one choice, whereas somewhere like Summit or Short Hills Mall or other places, you might have multiple choices. So some folks may be leaving Millburn to go find those things. It's just more convenient. We talked a little bit about rents. There's a feeling that rents are too high, and that may be some of what's driving those vacant spaces. Talked about the desire to just have more amenities in the downtown, more seating by the water, more things happening in Taylor Park, whether they're events or even specific activities that are there year round that, you know, that really bring people into the downtown. Apparently you can't have dogs in Taylor Park, and that's an issue for some who'd like to walk their pets. And I think we talked a little bit about Essex. You know, it feels like sort of the back door. So, you know, what might go there. And I think we didn't get a firm consensus on that. There is some concern about housing downtown and you know, the relationship between this plan and the affordable housing issue, which is happening sort of separately. But I think overall, there's just desire for more things to bring people into the downtown. So I'm going to pass it. I think, Noah, I'll pass it to you to sum up your group.
Okay, thanks, Susan. I think we heard a lot of similar ideas as far as having more activities that bring people downtown. In particular, I think there was a desire to have more activities for teens, and considering a lot of teenagers do use the downtown. But I'll read through my notes fairly quickly. And there were some differing opinions, particularly when it comes to complete streets. I think that there's, you know, some were for the complete streets, others were not so much in favor of it. But I think in general, most felt that there are a lot of things that they love about the downtown. They love the park. Taylor Park was an asset that I think people felt was, is a really strong component of the downtown area. There was some support for the Riverwalk idea, and I think people like that. And also that, I think people said that it was an unutilized and asset that could be made integrated better into the downtown area. People commented that while the downtown is a nice place to be, there are too many cars, particularly along Essex Street, which feels like a runway. And emphasis on Essex Street has been placed on parking lots, many that remain empty. And parking is hard to find on Millburn Avenue. So the parking isn't where it needs to be. Some people said that they like the beautification and just the attractiveness of downtown, and they want to see more of that. Some of the additions were nice additions. There was one comment was that some ideas have been brought forward in previous administrations. Some of these concepts aren't new, but it's good that we're bringing them up again. One participant mentioned that the idea of making the river more of a natural asset was even brought up by the town in 1995. And so I think we'll try to look back and dig up some of that information to see what was proposed then. Mary McNett from our group said that there needs to be an inventory of historic assets, and we need to preserve those assets. One of those being Town Hall. She mentioned that there's a problem of double parking in the downtown area. Parking came up on a number of occasions. One of the issues with the parking has to do with the complete streets additions, where you do have that kind of that bump in the parking lane. And while some are able to use it just fine, some people have difficulty, and when they have difficulty, it causes a backup. And so there are some design issues to consider. There was also an issue of the left turn lane, I believe from Main Street onto Essex, where you can't make a left turn. And because of that, it forces people basically to leave downtown, and circulation is an issue where people can't come around potentially to find a store they may have passed. Looking through my notes, Taylor Park, I think people said is one of the greatest assets, but there needs to be more things to do in Taylor Park. Potentially find craft shows or other events, things for teenagers. We need to market the downtown in general more to kids, and to make it a more kid-friendly town. Although people said that it is generally kid-friendly. There was agreement that the opening to Taylor Park wasn't conducive to bringing people in, and it can be widened up and made more accessible and attractive. We discussed the no dogs in Taylor Park, and some of our participants didn't know that dogs weren't allowed, so now we know. And let's see, I think that's the most of it. I do have more notes that I'm bringing up, but I did take notes in the meeting, and one of the other comments was the parking garage is underutilized. And we should look at ways to have strategies to advertise where spaces are available, and to make people know, to make those spaces known that they can be used for the downtown area. And there's also a desire for more arts and cultural opportunities in the downtown area. So I think that's a lot. Maybe I'll pass it along to Eric to report back from his group. Sorry to put you on the spot, Eric.
Got a lot of nature lovers or nature appreciators. I think everybody, the one common thing was the recognition of how special the town was in having these two great assets, the South Mountain Reservation and Taylor Park. I think everybody said that, and then recognizing like why the benefit of connecting them, the benefit of taking advantage of the river. I'm going to, however, just go to a couple things that people pointed out that weren't brought up, because I think that was important. Some of them were inadvertent, some of them weren't. And some of the things that people kind of pointed out as that I thought was interesting. A couple of people, one person pointed out that the town was not a couple of people, I guess, pointed out the town was not necessarily the most pedestrian friendly, for kids, or downtown, and not, I think the quote was not a walking town. And I think that's important. Another thing that was pointed out that was not mentioned was opportunities, or I guess the need, the lack of different residential opportunities, and the possibility of downtown being the opportunity to fill those, particularly for multifamily housing on some of the sites like the town dump and so forth. Parking was the second most prevalent thing that came up after parks and nature. I'm surprised. Usually parking comes up first, right, Noah? We know that. And that was kind of interesting because some said that it was a big problem, and some said they never had any problem finding parking, and they weren't quite sure. So that raised a question for me that I want to go into. I'm not exactly sure, Noah, what the opportunity is for me to come back with questions following up. But what exactly do people feel is the nature of the parking? Because we know that there's all sorts of issues with parking. There's not enough of it. You can't find it. You don't like parking in a garage, you know, whatever. It's not convenient. You don't like parallel parking. Anyway, there's a lot. Parking is something people can go on forever, but we know there are issues. We just need to kind of drill down and understand what the issues are with regard to parking. Those are the big ones we had. I think the one thing that I was struck by is we had a big range. We had longtime residents who were here for 70 years, and then residents who just moved 4 months ago. So that was kind of that was a pretty cool kind of range of perspectives. So anyway, that's what I had. I don't know if I missed anything. Priya, feel free to add whatever I might have missed. Beth?
So maybe we can move to Sylvia. Can you report back on what you heard?
Yeah, sure. I actually have a lot of longtime residents, so it was very interesting to hear their perspectives. And yeah, a lot of things similar to what have been said. The paper mill, Taylor Park, and also the library are mentioned as the greatest assets. And then hometown feel, family-oriented nature of Millburn. And what else? It's a good thing here. The movie theater, and during this time of street closures, it really promoted a healthy lifestyle. So that was another thing that was mentioned. And among the things that are missing from Millburn, it's one interesting thing was mentioned was the lack of innovation, and sort of like for retail, make it more experiential and attract Gen Z generation, make it more walkable and safe, and reinvent the mom and pop shops. And also a bit of a lack of restaurants and apparel stores. And here it was pointed out also the competition with other towns and with the mall. One other thing that was interesting was the issue of parking. Here was also the limit to 2 hours. That it's been said that it wasn't enough, and that's definitely something we can look into. And what else? Oh, yes, other things that may bring more value to Millburn were definitely more things for students, because it's surrounded by schools, so students use the downtown a lot. And for example, places to exercise, more public spaces, places that are more people-oriented, oases of calm, I like the terminology. And then last thing, one other thing that was interesting, create a workspace for kids and adults, Summit as a sort of like WeWork, where these things are combined and students can study and parents can work. And the last thing, it was very interesting that we should be looking into the senior citizen category too, and it's very true. And the need to look at housing downtown for older people that want to retire and walk to places rather than drive to places. So that was, hopefully I summarized that properly.
Thanks, Sylvia.
Yeah. No
oh, one thing I wanted to mention from my group that I forgot to mention, one of our respondents said he recently had an experience where he biked to town, went and got a sandwich at the deli, met a friend in the park, and then got a beer on Main Street. And to him, it just felt like a complete experience of the downtown and just having multiple experiences. I just forgot to mention that. But maybe I'll move to Frank Zimmerman just to relay what you heard from your group.
Yeah, so we had a lot of really good feedback. So beginning kind of on the downtown assets line, a lot of talk of the enjoyment of the paper mill and Taylor Park. There was also discussion around sort of the movie theater and missing the movie theater, particularly as a destination for teenagers. because they sort of remarked that downtown didn't have a lot of options for teenagers. The Millburn Deli was a big one, and the train. Somebody said the train station, given that it sort of adds a lot of connectivity to the region for the downtown. So then, kind of moving more towards the street design, it quickly came up that the sort of downtown, particularly Millburn Ave, feels very unsafe in terms of street traffic, in terms of traffic speeds. Particularly, the first person that brought it up was talking about biking and sort of how you can't really bike there much. You definitely can't bike there with your kids to the park because it's feels not safe in downtown, and they try to avoid it. There was another sort of contention that downtown felt very divided, as though it was sort of different spaces because the sort of parking lots broke up different elements, and so it kind of felt not practical to go to downtown at times, because if you park, you sort of are going into these different pockets of downtown, and so they kind of wanted to have it unified a little bit. And they were kind of also looking for more kind of diverse uses in downtown, so you could sort of show up and do many more things. People wanted to sort of improve when you get off the train, sort of create more pedestrian access for people leaving the train and moving towards downtown. There's not a lot of sort of pedestrian connections, and also crossing into Taylor Park. People kind of found it to be kind of a scary crossing direction. We talked a little bit about the river, and people thought it was encouraging, but also thought of it as possibly being a very difficult process, both in terms of expense and sort of the rapidly changing water levels that they've experienced in that area, all the way from there being pretty much no water to very, very high water levels. People were mentioned the beautiful pedestrian bridge near the library. Somebody also mentioned the possibility of how much they liked the scenic nature of the river north and south of kind of the downtown, particularly in Taylor Park, how it's a very sort of scenic river space, but in the middle it's paved over and doesn't feel very scenic. And so how can you kind of make it feel more contiguous? And so then the kind of thought on it's expensive was kind of the discussion of two different thought processes on whether we should sort of think more in more of a short term about kind of the expense of it, or if kind of in this design we're supposed to think more in the long term and kind of think larger, and sort of the discrepancy about that. People really wanted a traffic study to be part of the design. They mentioned a number of intersections in which traffic tended to back up, and sort of hoped to have that rectified in this current iteration. And then just some concern and discussion of kind of how public input will be taken into consideration going forward, and really kind of hoping to be involved in that.
Hey, thanks, Frank. A lot of ideas. It sounds like a lot of them, similar ideas in the different groups, but we're going to work together. But before, we have one more group. Larissa, are you there?
Yes. Yes. So I'm going to try to touch upon a few topics that weren't covered. I think we agreed on some of the assets, the paper mill, the park, food in the downtown environment overall. The challenge, or one thing we covered, is the farmers market, a desire to see the farmers market potentially grow and move to Saturdays, but a recognition of how challenging that is in an environment where there are few farmers, and they're already otherwise committed to other communities on Saturdays or Sundays. But the idea that we would have activity like that on a weekend, I think is something to take away. They love the Riverwalk idea. Mostly we're inspired by it, but also want to say, let's also start with simple changes. Let's tackle the things we can tackle. and recognize that that's, you know, a big idea. There was some comments on the streetscapes. I got half of the streets look like California, you know, not necessarily like the Millburn they remember. There were comments about how challenging it is to walk downtown. There's sort of a mixed bag, but someone said they don't go downtown often because it's really hard to walk. There's the one-way traffic, the speeds, the bike lane. You know, kids can't bike downtown because it's just too dangerous, and that's just not an environment that's conducive to, you know, everyone's comfort. Generally, folks said that they did not have issues with parking downtown, and you know, it sort of was a bizarre moment. We recognize that, but you know, you could generally find a spot. Again, you know, the desire to see more accessibility through the biking lanes came up. Someone said they tend to walk to Maplewood because it's prettier, and it's also a nicer walk basically to get there because there's less speedy traffic. So I think recognizing that the connections to downtown and the comfort and safety of those connections are really important. And a few things around retail that came up. You know, folks said they wanted more diversity in restaurants, not just Italian restaurants. We have to work on the retail array. There's a mention, I think, which is important, that restaurants are currently a conditional use. So they have to go through the planning board to get permits. This was said by someone who owns property in downtown, is trying to bring restaurants to the downtown, but the restrictions are a hindrance to quality restaurants, and the legal fees associated with that, et cetera, really undermine any effort to bring more restaurants. And then on the flip side, someone said, you know, that we should be careful with bringing, you know, restaurants and nighttime life and concerts downtown, which are things that were mentioned, because there is a residential neighborhood around there. And so striking that balance is important.
Thanks, Larissa. Well, I hope this was as informative for you all as it was for us. We certainly got a lot of information out of this. Our role now is to kind of take all of this and consolidate it and really start to put together some ideas and some options. But there's still opportunities to participate. As Susan mentioned before, the website is live. There is an ideas wall, and everyone's encouraged to submit comments there and also respond to other comments. You know, we want to hear from you in a variety of ways, and also if those that weren't able to attend tonight, you know, post comments there, we'll document all of that. But with that,
and if I could jump in, I would just say that if you feel like something was missed tonight, or you didn't get a chance to say something that you wanted to, then do please take that opportunity to go to the website and give us your comments, even if you already have gone before. There's no limit. So we're happy to hear whatever you have to say.
Thanks, Susan. And then with that, I'll pass it to Tara just for some closing comments.
Thank you, Noah. So I just wanted to thank everybody for coming and being with us tonight, participating, and please reach out to any of us on the steering committee and stay engaged. And P. Perkins Eastman, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Long.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
everything.
everyone.
Good night. Good night.
Farewell.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.